when last we left our intrepid adventurers.
I was just going to say that the session was short because I was dealing with this, the same thing I was just dealing with, the travel stuff. She called me like while I was driving home. I had to pull over, and basically for the first hour when we would normally be role playing, I was dealing with this.
But it was still an eventful
still did
session.
Stuff.
We came up with a curveball to throw John he wasn't expecting.
Yeah, we didn't get quite as far as I expected. I kind of tried to do a little prodding, but there was a lot of planning.
Yeah, when last we left our intrepid adventures, you killed Ben Gerard's girlfriend.
Yes, Ben Gerard. Well, I think they broke up.
And she tried to kill you.
Yeah.
Everyone is talking about how Ben Gerard is a cad, but really, I mean, she was a mouth face, and when he said, wasn't willing to commit to her eternally immediately, she freaked out and tried to kill everyone.
Yeah.
So it's just maybe not the best girlfriend material.
It was a bad relationship on both sides, really. Maybe for the best it didn't work out.
So you guys basically murdered his girlfriend.
Ex-girlfriend. They definitely broke up.
The same way Abe murdered that artificer dealer with the rats.
She attacked first.
Yeah.
It was self-defense.
Yeah. So anyway, that happened last session. So this session we were back into, trying to get back on track. We need to figure out how to build a time poline to send the end of all things back to before the apocalypse. And
a sentence that makes sense.
It's a sentence that makes sense. And so we finally got the opportunity now to let Serendipity study the time sigil. And she figured out that it is possible, in fact, to go to before the apocalypse, but only from Allen Way. Because Allen Way is time is fractured all along Allen Way's world line. Excuse me. So Allen Way is the easiest place to move through time. And she actually figured out that it might even be possible to go all the way back to the beginning of time in Allen Way. She couldn't plot any courses for it.
Right.
And it's not what we want to do right now.
But theoretically
possible to go all the way to the beginning of time. So at some point we might just do that. And I'm sure nothing will go wrong.
It may not be the best course of action.
I see what's getting drawn here.
Maybe we can do that, when we got nothing else going on as a little vacation. Take Ben Gerard back there and see if he'll steal it. Well, actually he wouldn't, because nothing's been made yet. It's the worst place for Ben Gerard. So anyway, we figured that out. So unfortunately what that means is we're going to have to do 2 time polines. We're going to have to bounce the end of all things to Allen Way, and then bounce it to the apocalypse. So we're going to have to pick some time when Allen Way is already devastated and send the end of all things there. It shouldn't stick around long enough to cause any further devastation, but just to be on the safe side, pick one of the known apocalypses. Maybe we should use the one that we accidentally erased.
That could be the apocalypse.
It turns out when we killed Ben Gerard's girlfriend, we had to pull a lot of time tower sigils. Apparently, she caused an apocalypse, one of the destructions of Allen Way.
Oh.
We don't know which one because it hasn't caught up with our memories yet. But at some point soon, it's going to catch up, and we'll do history checks and try and figure out which apocalypse we no longer remember. And that will actually work because you get a sort of double vision thing going on with this. So yeah, we accidentally saved Allen Way.
So yeah, they did ask. That came from asking a bunch of questions out of time.
Yeah.
I remember there was a lot of deliberation about questions that were asked. I don't know
we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what the best questions to ask were, and the time tower was being a total jerk.
It's one of the situations where I would be happy to answer the questions nicely, but they were like really focused on making sure that there was the exact right wording, because I can only answer a word or a very short phrase. And so they were like trying to find like these like really precise ways to ask the questions. And I ended up harming them because it's like, well, the answer to that question is, it depends.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the problem is, even if we ask a very straightforward question, we will get a very simple answer. And you need to be able to interpret that. And so if we don't put the context into the question, the context doesn't come in the answer. So there's no context.
I think they finally settled on when did the Time Mages first learn of
How to do time travel.
time travel.
Yeah.
Which still produced a very misleading answer, but at least it was better than their first.
Which was the answer?
The answer was gave a certain date, which was.
Oh right, it was shortly after the apocalypse.
It was shortly after the basically right after the portal to the void was open. They like immediately learned of time travel.
When was the portal to the void open? What was that?
It was after the apocalypse, but still really long ago.
Who opened that?
The elves did.
Yeah.
The void creatures first started coming through for the gnomes because of their vanity and their propensity for erasing people. But it was first. It was gnomes and elves first under Alan Way who opened the portal to the void.
Now, obviously, we can't prevent that because the Time Mages are an integral part of our party's timeline. You have to do all the crap they've been doing. But it would be nice to get a bit more of a beat on them in terms of, like, how do we kill them now that they've finished doing all the stuff history said they did. So yeah, that was a useful bit of information. What other bits of information do we get? We got the Void Creature destroyed Alan Way, so that's why all the Time Tower blocks are being pulled. We got that. I remember there were one or two that were completely useless questions, it turned out. There were 5 questions in total we got to ask the Time Tower. It's a ritual that Serendipity does. It's super expensive, so we don't do it often. But we figured we'd accumulated some important need-to-know stuff.
Yeah, so it was the significance of there was when they first learned time travel. There was something that was eliminating something. It was are the Drow involved in time travel?
Right.
They had been going for Panadar.
Yeah.
But the answer was they were eliminated.
Yeah.
So they never.
Yeah, so the Drow are not a player. And we kind of knew that from meta-knowledge anyway, because John had said that we now knew all the factions involved in time travel. But, I guess it's good to be sure in character as well. We did see that Dark Future once where the Drow had taken over.
Yeah, my original thought was they were going to stop their first actions were going to cause things that caused the Drow to successfully take over, which they did, and they went to the Dark Future and saw that, and then I thought that would be like an element to the campaign where they have to prevent the Dark Future with the Drow that they had caused, but then they just solved that in like half a session. So
we didn't even really know we were doing that. We just killed a bunch of Drow
but the thing you mainly did was when they stopped by preventing the earthquake. The earthquake was what was triggering the Drow's successful colonization of Alan Way, gaining of time travel, and ultimately conquering the world.
I hope they're not going to do that now that the Warforged have wiped out everyone in Alan Way.
No, because they were also subterranean. Also, they've been killed there aren't any of them around there.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, we got some information there. And then we figured, okay, we know what we need to do now. So first step is go back to the beginning. Go back to our very first adventure, because that's where the end of all things is going to show up. And we have to build a time plane there to send it to Alan Way.
Yeah.
And so then we start planning. What are we going to do when we get there? We can aim to arrive a couple of days before the end of all things.
Yeah.
Which is also the exact moment when the Warforged threw us into the chasm.
Yeah.
So we get there, and John was expecting us to go back into the dungeon sort of in the reverse path of how we got out.
I don't know why.
Yeah, and so we would have had to sneak past all the monsters that we were going to fight and stuff, and make sure that we didn't disrupt anything. But it turned out it'd be a lot easier just to basically jump in the hole.
Yeah.
So we jumped in the hole. We wound up we missed the that weird platform thing initially and went in through a different hole. And there was a bit of a tense moment when Croesus saw a goblin lurking about in the shadows. And Croesus is an oblin, and therefore, whenever he sees a goblin, it's like, well, it has to be killed. It's a mercy killing. It's necessary, all that kind of stuff. But we're all like, no, you can't disrupt the timelines. We're going to face these goblin. And sure, we killed them pretty easily. We threw chairs at them and they died. Even first level adventurers threw chairs at them and they died. But no, Croesus tossed pebbles at them and was killing them with pebbles.
The first one managed to get away because the party stopped Croesus. But then another one was very timidly following them and just destroyed them, and they all just ran off.
Yeah, he tossed a pebble and it just exploded into paper.
And so they were terrified. But that was when I realized that they're now terrified of the party.
Yeah.
Which is going
different.
to cause a problem in 2 days when the party gets hucked down the pit.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to fight them. And it was pretty integral because at the end of that fight, there was one left alive, and Croesus executed it. And it was a major point of like contention and party character, how the characters developed against each other.
And so I was like, oh crap, is Cricket going to have to impersonate a goblin and let Croesus execute her? Because I could do that. My bluff score is astronomical, so I'm sure I could pull it off.
Oh, I'm so dead.
Oh, I am slain.
You have slain me.
Yeah, I could totally do that, but
Some ketchup.
fortunately we realized at this point that these were goblin that we hadn't actually encountered. These were a different bunch, and also like 2 of our party members are different anyway. There's Serendipity and Benjamin.
I don't think they were a different bunch.
And
I don't know.
I thought we were in a different area entirely.
It was a slightly different area, but it was like just down the hall.
Okay, so it's probably the same goblin then.
Yeah, that was
But yeah, we
probably
were.
also look a lot different.
It ended up with a bluff check. I forget. It didn't matter who made it because like they couldn't fail against these guys because they were like level 1.
Yeah.
I think I don't remember who made it. If it was Croesus himself or someone made it for him. Because they'd mostly only seen Croesus.
Yeah.
And so someone was like, "Oh."
Yeah, I did that. Yes, I was loudly announcing like about how, no, Croesus, don't kill these goblin. Not like you're. What did it say?
It's like, wow, you're very good at killing goblin. Unlike your very similar twin brother. Oh, they tried to come as a hobgoblin.
Yeah.
Croesus is a hobgoblin. Wow, you're good at killing goblins. Not like your very similar looking oblin brother who is
Also
really
named Croesus.
who's very weak and easy to kill. I hope he doesn't stumble into these goblins because they can kill him easily. Meanwhile, we'll go over here.
Yeah, it was like that.
They just totally bought it. I mean, they're dumb and they're first level, so.
And I have plus 29 on my bluff.
We can kill his brother.
Yeah, it was.
They had to promise Croesus that he would kill them all afterwards. Like once the party's gone through,
you can massacre them. Yeah. So anyway, there was a bunch of fun sort of meta discussion where we were talking about how, oh yeah, it's okay. This is a first level dungeon. There's basically nothing in here that poses any threat.
I might grab a.
But maybe. And there were Ben Gerard in particular was excited because we could go and get all the loot that the party left behind the first time, because apparently there was a whole lot of stuff in here that was cool, but that we just bypassed.
But cool for level 1.
Exactly, that was the thing. It's like it's level 1. But then I pointed out it's okay. We didn't actually open the chests when we were here, so the treasure didn't actually generate, and so now when we open the chest it'll be level 24 treasure. So we just have to be careful though if we go into any rooms we didn't open. There could be level 24 monsters in there. But anyway, that was somewhat meta and I'm sure probably inaccurate. Oh yes, we also discussed Rip Roar. We don't want Hank to go down where Rip Roar is. We also discussed whether Cricket was Rip Roar.
Yeah. If Hank killed Rip Roar, Cricket would have to be Rip Roar.
Yeah.
And all the pranks that he had pulled on Hank throughout the whole campaign would have just been Cricket sneaking around.
Yeah. But no, it turns out that's not who. Cricket wasn't any of those things. She wasn't the goblin that Croesus killed, and she wasn't Rip Roar. Turns out she was the chaos creature that attacked him when they went into the rifts, when they fell on that platform.
Oh, really?
Initially. Yeah, I'm jumping ahead a little bit there, but we'll get to that. Cricket's always got to be something. So, I'm going to take a bite of food.
That's what comes from having a high bluff in a time travel campaign.
Yeah.
You basically end up being everyone.
Yep. So, we realized, since we're here, we could actually save some of those NPCs, or actually all those NPCs, that died in the first adventure.
Oh, yeah.
So if you recall, or I don't know if Frank would even know, but when they were hucked down the chasm, there were 3 random NPCs with them. Henley the gnome, a commoner woman,
whose name we never found out.
She fell off. They tried to save her from falling off, but failed. The genasi exploded because the chaos rift interacted with him being an elemental and he turned into an explosion of electricity. and Henley was an arrogant jerk and insisted on walking on ahead, and met the fate of all arrogant jerks who walk on ahead and fell into a pit of writhing maggots that skeletonized him.
So, we realized we can save them all. The peasant woman, even Henley. The peasant woman's easy. Just have someone waiting a little bit further down the chasm with a net. Because she just fell. She got knocked off the edge and fell. The genocide is more tricky because he exploded. But we figure that the timeline will be pretty much the same if he just gets quote-unquote killed by chaos creatures instead of exploded by lightning.
Right.
So that's why Cricket is going to dress herself as a chaos creature. And she will attack and knock out and take away the genocide. For Henley, it's a little bit more tricky because we actually found his corpse.
Right.
But what we found was his arm sticking out of this writhing mass of maggots that had devoured him. We pulled the arm out and we're like, oh yeah,
There's a
he's
skeleton
dead.
arm attached, and they just let it go.
Yeah. So yeah, we were like, oh, okay. We didn't see him die. We just need to swap him out for a different corpse. And so we were like, Serendipity, do you have any spells that could make a gnome corpse? And she was like, why, yes, I do. Draws dagger and starts heading into the city or whatever. We're like, no. We'll find an existing corpse. You don't need to make one. So yeah,
Probably doesn't even have to be gnome.
yeah.
Because right now they're in the city. Allenway has just been destroyed by the dwarven thing, so
There's a
can probably
lot of
just
corpses.
Find a random
Yeah,
corpse.
we'll just take a corpse.
She's not going to get to use her 7th level stab still then?
Generate corpse stuff. I cast make corpse. There's a somatic component. Anyway,
Material component, one living being.
so we'll just have someone hiding in the shadows with the corpse, and when Henley wanders off, grab him, stuff him in the bag, throw the corpse in the maggot hole. So we'll save them all, and then we'll have to promptly imprison them in the primal prisons because they need to sit around until they reach baseline. So that's one thing taken care of. The other thing is the end of all things, of course. We know exactly where and when it's going to arrive. Like, we can draw an X on the floor and say, end of all things here at exactly this moment.
Right.
We're not going to draw an X because that would change time, but whatever. So we need Serendipity to actually be present right there at that moment to cast the ritual to time Pauline it. So the problem is the past party is going to be there as well. So we use stone shape to dig a spider hole in the floor. Make a cavity in the floor and then seal it over as if it was never there, except with a little peephole.
Okay.
And so she'll be directly underneath where the end of all things appears and do the ritual. She also requested that we leave an escape tunnel so that she can run away if something goes wrong. Nothing will go wrong, obviously.
Nothing ever goes.
Yeah. And that will promptly time Pauline the end of all things off to Allenway.
Right. Where we'll destroy Allenway.
Well,
But hey, that's what you do.
the idea is that we will then rush over to Allenway and catch it on the other end and time Pauline it further.
But there will be a reality where it destroys Allenway.
Only briefly.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, we might end up drawing some Jenga blocks for that. We have recovered a bunch. Slowly.
I think I will delay drawing the Jenga blocks as long as you're successful stopping that feature.
Yeah. Okay, that'll be good. Or we could send it into Allenway's future. Actually, if we sent it to baseline Allenway, then there'd be no time tower blocks. And there'd only be Warforged there for it to kill.
Win-win.
Yeah. That's actually work. Maybe we should just do that. That's a good idea.
Did the Warforged take over Allenway?
They were massacring everyone and distributing leaflets.
Right. To get everyone to kill you.
Yeah,
Right.
basically, we're doing this because of them. If you kill them, we'll stop. I guess it's basically a form of terrorism, but
Yeah. And
army-based.
yeah. And in an appropriate response to terrorism, we just ignored them. Anyway, so yeah, we spent most of the session planning this stuff out, and we were just sort of getting in position at the end of the session to actually execute on this plan. And it seems like it's a good plan. We've got everyone in good positions. Let's see, who all is where? I think Hank is stationed further down the chasm to catch the peasant woman. No, wait. Is Hank with serendipity? Someone was
Gerard is the serendipity.
Gerard was serendipity. Oh yes, we can't let him loose because he'll go and steal things. So okay.
Hank is going to catch.
Mm-hmm.
Cricket is pretending to be a chaos beast.
Yep. What is Croesus up to? Because we don't need to do Henley rescue right away. That's a little later on.
I like that you have like.
No wait, I think that's what because wasn't that what he was going to do? He was going to stand where he was going to bang Henley and swap him for the corpse.
Okay.
The entire world is saved, and then you have these 3 level 1 peasants that you also want to save.
They were there at the beginning, and then we always kind of remembered, like, oh yeah, it's pretty about
It's been a talking point quite a bit, and so it just kind of makes sense. Part of their history, they feel bad about them.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah. Cricket feels particularly bad about Henley because he owned an 1/8 of her at the time. The others weren't around long enough to sort of salvage her, but
isn't that going to change your ownership?
That's a problem.
Yeah, it is going to be an interesting little conundrum.
Though he'll still have a minority share,
Right?
compared to both Hank and Serendipity.
Yeah, but fortunately,
If they just order Cricket to obey him, and then as long as he has a minority share.
Yeah, but doesn't that mean that he also gets a vote in all the decisions that get made about her?
yeah, but he's going to be primal prisoned until we get back to baseline, and it kind of has to be that way.
Yeah. Otherwise, he dies.
Yeah. No, I mean, sure. If a domestic has multiple owners, one of them could be always outvoted. But that's what happens when you have a minority share in something. It can happen with companies. It can happen whatever. What you do is you just sell that share because you're not getting anything out of it.
Haven't there ever been situations where there was a tie?
There have been, and Cricket has had trouble interpreting those. But at this point,
They
Cricket.
did make her party leader, so
Yeah.
I guess in that way that invests her with a high-breaking authority.
I guess, yeah. I mean, she's not a robot. She is able to interpret ambiguous or contradictory orders and try and figure out what the best interpretation is. And she's actually become quite confident in that, because over the course of the campaign, she has been repeatedly challenged with all kinds of difficult situations. And so far, every time she's made a decision, it has been the correct one.
And the priestesses have backed her up on it.
Yeah. In my post-game monologue, I mentioned at one point, that every time I make these decisions, it turns out to be correct. And also, at one point, the High Priestess even raised me from birth and trained me really well. So yeah, she's really confident in her ability at this point to figure out what the correct course of action is. She can fix anything. I've just steadily become more confident in their crazy worldview.
Yes.
So yeah, that's where things stand. And I really can't see any problems with this plan. And as soon as our first level party has progressed through this dungeon, we're basically just going to be following along behind them, vacuuming up everything. So I hope you kept your notes about all those neat things that were hidden in the various rooms.
That was the twist that you were throwing at
I
Joe?
was using my old notes from that session.
Yeah, so. That and also the fact that we were going to rescue those three, because he wasn't really expecting that.
For good reasons.
Yeah, and yeah, it's gonna monkey wrench Cricket a little bit, but I mean, it's a very hypothetical thing because Henley's going to be primal prisoned and out of the picture essentially. So even though technically he has a part ownership, it's not going to affect anything.
You can't even ask him.
Yeah, taking him out of the primal prison before baseline could kill him. So.
Is it possible to communicate with someone inside of a primal prison?
No, they're essentially in suspended animation.
Like not even psychic telepathy.
No. Yeah.
That would be pretty funny because if that were true, you'd have to go to the primal prison every once in a while and be like, all right, we've received it. We've come to a tie between. How do you vote? How do you vote? Yeah.
Henley's the tiebreaker. Fantastic. Hadn't considered that. I always considered it was going to be Henley versus the party, but no, Henley could pick a side.
Yeah. What if there were definitely moments where people were tied and you had to decide on your own, and that would make Henley. It is a good thing you cannot communicate with him because you would be obligated to go find him and decide.
Well, technically, if he's with the party, he doesn't have to be primal prison because we have Panadar.
That's true.
He could be a party member again. He was a party member originally. So
he's in the basement, and every time there's a disagreement,
what he's saying is, if when you go to primal prison, and he says, "No, what are you doing? You can't do this to me." You're gonna have to listen to him.
There has to be some other way. Well, there is.
Well, there will be a vote. And I think everyone else will probably be very like, yeah, primal prison him.
The tanking serendipity.
Yeah. Though there's probably some sort of clause where, you know, if there's a domestic that's owned by several people, the X minus one of the people can't order that domestic kill X plus
Probably,
one.
yeah.
And then just keep working your way along until there's only one guy left.
Yeah.
Well, I assume you're not supposed to harm your owner, so that.
And primal prisoning him isn't harming him, it's keeping him safe.
You also rescued the Dryad.
Aderon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did Aderon ever have a share?
He did, but Shannon, who played Aderon, said, yeah, after Cricket explains to Aderon, you know, I've had to fake your death, these are the reasons why, you can't interact with the party anymore. Aderon would have renounced his share of ownership in order to simplify things.
Okay.
And that was a bit of a few moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, as it turns out, Henley was alive the entire time, or will have been alive the entire time. But yes, Cricket
I
is...
think it's important to primal imprisonment, otherwise you'll have to remember all of the ties that he could have broken and find out which way they went.
As long as he didn't actually break those ties.
Well,
yeah.
no, I don't think you could. I don't think you could.
Oh, then
have
you
him go back-
impersonate him and break them in the way that you...
because
It's
the party
against
didn't
my
have-
programming to impersonate a deity.
the past party didn't have Panadar, so he couldn't go with past party and change their past.
Yeah.
But he could go with present party.
Yeah,
Right.
that was the party I was talking
That's
about.
true, yeah.
No, I was saying
Yeah.
because
But like if you could psychically communicate with him inside the thing.
Yeah. Well, past Cricket can't find out. Or if she does find out, she has to be ordered to pretend that he's dead.
Right.
She's done that before. I actually wanted to go and check on that floor polishing machine that has the secret note in it from the Ood times to past Cricket to tell her about impersonating, or to fake Aderon's death. Since it's like we're right there, and that floor polishing machine is just in that room over there. But it turns out there was some sort of big lizard monster in that room, so we can't disturb it right now. So I'll just have to trust that that's going to work out, because it did. Sometimes cause and effect will progress without your help,
Yeah.
I have found. Not always.
it's interesting. Yeah, this area is full of like monsters that they can defeat in one round. They're so easy,
Right.
but they're like terrified of them. It's like, we don't want to get into a battle with them because we might kill them. Oh no, goblin! Run!
The escape route that Serendipity has actually leads her through a room that has all these magically animated chairs that we wound up... We ran away from them, didn't we?
No, I think
We did fight them? Oh, right. I think we did fight, yes, because Cricket was doing scouting ahead, and everyone else was like, we'll come with you. And, yeah, so that's why the whole party wound up fighting the animated chairs. Because Cricket stealthed ahead and found them, and she's like, aha, a threat. I will go back and tell them to avoid this threat. Oh, hi, guys. Guess what? They still do that.
One thing was nice was I had planned a whole explanation for why there was a million chairs in that room, but they horribly failed their history checks, and so they never found out why. And the full time they're like, yeah, it was some kind of auditorium, and I'm like,
Turns out it's a parking garage.
Oh.
The Ood used flying chairs for conveyance.
yeah, you just had flying easy chairs and just floating discs, and
Right.
that's how you got around.
Yeah.
Right.
They observed that when they were in the Oodlands. They were very popular.
That's when the realization dawned on them.
Well, I don't think it really dawned on us then because it didn't really matter.
But when they saw the big cavernous room under the main room, full of these chairs, and then it all clicked together.
And Serendipity's escape route goes through that room, so we're really hoping the end of all things doesn't, resist the time plane and we have to fight it or whatever because she'll have to escape. Well, I guess by that point we're hosed anyway, so yeah. Man, I don't know what we would do in a situation like that.
There's no reason to assume that would happen unless someone's interfering.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure time doesn't work in the way that the time mages would know that they need to interfere with this until after we've actually done it.
That's true. That said, they might suspect if you were doing this, you might think maybe we better send someone to that point to prevent them from screwing around with them.
Yeah. So we may wind up having to fight some time mages without the first level party noticing that we're fighting time mages.
Yeah, that's gonna be crazy.
Yeah. It's be one of those hilarious, situations where, it's not quite so hilarious because the time mages don't care. if both sides were wanting to fight, but also both sides didn't want the past party, there would have been some hilarious situations where, they're fighting and then the past party enters the room and everyone like puts lampshades over their heads and waits. Okay, they're gone? They're gone. Ah!
Could you Leoman's tiny hut or something like that to like make the same room but in a different dimension? So the party walks in, doesn't die.
So Cricket is the dungeon now.
Yes, Cricket is the dungeon.
Why not just keep them in there for the rest of the campaign? Actually, that would be great. We can just keep them in there.
Dress the basement up.
Yeah, just dress the basement up. I've got plus 29 bluff. They can't possibly... It's like all this, cardboard sets and stuff.
The entire adventure.
The whole campaign. Meanwhile...
Takes place in your holodeck.
Yeah, meanwhile, we can just go out there as a level 24 party and just fix everything. We don't care about how it affects the time because we're in the holodeck. We need to research this.
You would still have to produce the same outcomes for things outside the party. I think that's the Achilles heel of this plan.
We're really high level. We can probably make most of the adventures we've gone on turn out however we want. We were just speculating if we were to successfully kidnap our first level party into a magical holodeck, essentially. We can do whatever we want in the outside world and have the party continue to believe they're doing the adventures that we went through.
But you're not changing Didn't you guys change the world on several occasions?
Yeah, but we'll be doing that outside the holodeck, but that's okay. It won't be affecting our personal timeline because everything will still be playing out exactly as we remembered it.
Oh, I see. So you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, you can just go through and make the world a better place.
Exactly.
Because you know what's better than a second level party? A 20th level.
24th, yeah. We'll go and kill all those Warforged that bothered us.
Yeah, they did mention that after it's all over, they're going to go topside and beat the crap out of those Warforged.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yes. The ones that tossed us in the hole.
My character's going to die.
We never interacted with them after that, so we're just going to go up there and beat the crap out of them. I don't think we'll actually kill them.
So after you do that, maybe that's the reason why the Warforged hate you guys so much.
No, time doesn't work that way. It would make sense, but no.
Yeah, this came from me, like, Brian was talking about how Serendipity has to hide under the floor, and then presumably, the Time Mages would know that they should probably send some people to that moment to defend against the party trying to mess with things. And then we were imagining both sides, like, trying to avoid fighting, but avoiding letting the party know. I was like, why can't you just send the party into, like, an extra dimension that looks the same as that room? They're safe from getting eaten, and you guys can have it out.
And then we're like, well, why ever let them out?
Yeah.
It's a reasonable question.
Yeah.
Sort of like, it's like being very protective with your children. You're not helicopter parents, you're helicopter future selves.
But then, what if we're still in there?
Yeah. I know, that's what that was the next, like, you get into the Matrix thing.
So we're not actually putting the first level party into a fake dungeon. We're putting a fake version of the first level party into a fake dungeon inside a fake dungeon that a higher level party put us into.
Because you'd have to let them out at some point.
Do we have to?
Well, because if you don't, then you are still.
Nobody's our bosses.
Well,
do what we like.
You don't let
It's
the
like
party
in Rick
out.
and Morty with the battery.
Yeah. Because if you don't let them out, then you are still in there for sure.
We'll let them out.
Period.
We'll let them out when the campaign ends.
Or you just let them out after the time tower is recovered enough that you can pull the necessary block.
Nah, when the campaign ends.
Unravel the multiple boxes, right? Like in their little holodeck, they realize that they have to put the past party into the holodeck. So they make a holodeck inside the holodeck.
But they just take it back all the layers. They're like, when is that? And then they finally find out that they were just created in the minds of other humans sitting at a table.
Or it was all a feverish dream as they slowly bled to death and Chaos Monster's eating them.
Could be, yep.
Nah, we'd go back and rescue them. As we are doing now, actually.
Because how does it work with your own memory?
You're able to remember both timelines. One of them feels more real than the other.
Because if you interact with yourself, How does it take like a while?
It
takes
does.
a while of meta time to catch up.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
we've actually done this.
if you don't have Panadar, then reality just becomes reality, and you have no idea that it ever changed. But if you have Panadar, then you remember the past, what it used to be, and what it is now. And the used to be seems more real because you really lived through it, but you remember the other
So and then what happens if you leave the influence of Panadar?
you keep what you have, but any future changes, you'll just be like everyone else.
Yes, we have done this before. Cricket gave herself a pep talk, or she would have, but she anticipated she was going to give herself a pep talk, and so she didn't have to. Future Cricket said to past Cricket, "You know me so well." It's like, I don't have to say it. She's like, yeah, I know.
What is it with everyone telling me not to kill Goblin? Every time we meet them, everybody goes on and on as if they were some kind of protected species rather than a plague upon the planet. It's just really odd, that's all. Oh, I got one.
Dear Mother, so you know how you've been constantly telling me I need to settle down and get married, especially when I brought those kids home, and you're like, you should get a wife if you're starting to bring children home. Anyway, I finally met somebody, and she seemed really nice, and I felt like we had this connection. We had, I thought, so much in common, and yeah, it was really good for a few moments. Well, she turned out to be some kind of chaos monster being thing. And I know you're going to say, yeah, that's what you said about Sandra, and now she turned out to be a wonderful person, and look what a good mother she is, and why did you dump her, da-da-da-da. But Mom, this one actually was some kind of chaos monster. Okay? So, I'm trying. But it's just not fair. It's not my fault. I'm trying to find a wife, okay? So just stop trying to set me up with all your friends' daughters and granddaughters. That was weird, okay? No more of that, Mom. Thank you. No more of those letters. I hope you're doing well. Bye.
So we're back here, and we're planning to save those who are with us that didn't make it, even Henley for some reason. That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting to see what kind of people they're like, and I'm still just wondering why this all happened in the first place, and it'll be good to unravel that, but I don't know, maybe we're getting closer, maybe we're not, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, here we are, back at the beginning, and things are going to get complicated. Once again, there's another loophole that's about to show up that was never covered by the original rules. We're going to rescue Henley, who, if you may recall, very briefly owned a small share of me, and then he died. And now he won't have. Fortunately, by this point, I have become quite confident in my abilities to unravel these particular snarls of logic. I have conferred on several occasions over several of these bizarre scenarios with the High Priestess of the Temple of Freedom, and every time she's told me, I've done well. I've figured it out. And in fact, recently she even raised me from birth and trained me even better. So I'm quite confident that I'll be able to figure this one out, and there won't be any confusion or complication this time.